there, this is Mobile Agent TV, helping agents stay on the cutting edge from coast to coast.
Welcome to Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of RE/MAX Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and my co-host, as always, is Dave Falkwer from Bridgewater, New Jersey's RE/MAX Preferred Professionals in the Avio Realty team. Dave, how excited are you to be wearing that shirt in September that you're wearing right now?
How upset? I'm not upset at all, man.
No, I said excited.
Excited. Oh, excited. Yeah, I'm real excited. I thought you said upset. No, I'm dressed because I just took a shower and I got everything lined up. Ready to go. We're going to the Yankee game tonight. The Yankee Mets. The Mets are going to kick the Yankees' ass. We're going to put them out of their misery. And because I think Mike probably is a Yankee fan. I can just sort of tell. The Yankee fan, Mike?
Believe it or not, I'm not much of a baseball fan. I'm a Jets fan, which up until this year was sad to say.
That's good enough. That's good enough for me. So yeah, I'm excited. We're going there tonight. We're only 6 or 7 games out of clinching, so maybe we can.
But you know what? You and I have the same desire for tonight's game, and I don't want to talk about baseball. But the Mets beating the Yankees makes you happy. The Yanks losing makes me happy as a Blue Jays fan. So thank you so much. Go Mets. During the broadcast, you can interact with us live using the hashtag #MATVLive. As well as you can get us on Twitter at Mobile Agent TV. I will also enable the Q&A feature right now. So if you're logged into your Google account, you can ask questions, vote them up, vote them down, and we'll get them asked of today's guests. Today's show is going to be full of awesome takeaways. We have a super agent guest for you that is going to add a ton of value to our audience. From the corrections department, I was able to fix it in the write-up. No. Our corrections department was able to fix it, not me. Was able to fix the write-up, but not the video that I put out. In the video, I said the Super Mike team. It's Team Super Mike, so our apologies to Team Super Mike. That's the correction there. Belated birthdays go out to, I've been so busy, I normally send out videos, and I would to these guys because they've been so good to us on the show, Dave. Belated birthdays to Heather Scott and Colin Craig, both awesome past guests. Happy birthday to you guys. As well as iOS 9 is here. I'm a huge iPhone, iPad guy. The multitasking on your iPad to be able to work on 2 things at once, especially when you're moving documents around or you're cutting and pasting text, is brilliant. It's awesome. Go ahead and get your iOS 9 right now. As well as a really important emotional life balance update for people on here. Last week after the show, I went on to our RE/MAX Little Golf Tournament. And when I was on the 14th fairway, my phone rang, and it was my wife who was crying on the phone, but not a bad cry, a good cry. Some of you may remember about an episode about 6 months ago. At the end of the episode, I asked for all your guys' prayers and good thoughts and well wishes, whatever you believe in, for my brother-in-law, who's been a guest on the show, who does a lot of our videography for us, who's just a great, great man, Brad Patterson, who was 37 years old and starting his second battle with cancer, this time a lot more aggressive in his lymph nodes. I was on the 14th fairway and got a phone call from my wife saying that he is officially cancer-free. So thank you to everyone for your awesome support. A lot of you have reached out and said that, if I ever need to lay back on you, Dave, you've been awesome about it. So just wanted to give a lot of great news. A lot of people I've updated personally, but to the Mobile Agent TV audience, Brad is now officially cancer-free, so got one more round of chemo. But thank you, everyone, for your good thoughts over the last 6 months for Brad and our family. Today's guest, on that note, talking about work-life balance and all this stuff and what's important in life, because we're going to get into that, a lot of other things, is Mike Minervini. You can get him on Twitter at Agent Super Mike. And as always, we read out our guest's 160 Twitter bio. It reads, "Under the guidance of God, with integrity and enthusiasm, we will aggressively work on behalf of our clients in order to meet their selling/purchasing needs." Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Mike, you and I joked with you before we got on the air when your face popped up, and I've read your history, and you've been in the business for like ever, and then I look at your face and the math doesn't work. But you've been in business for 18 years. Go ahead and give us, our audience, a little bit of a history in your career in the real estate space.
Sure. So I started, like you said, 18 years ago. I started with the Yellow Blood, I used to call it, Wiper Realtors, and I was there for about 3 years. until a gentleman named Dick Lafferty, who's no longer with us now, came up to me about 7:30 at night on a call night, and he said, "Kid, you got to get out of here." And he made an introduction to my then broker, Timothy Kwok, and I went over to Remax, and the rest was history. So I started building a team a few years ago, and we've just really been blessed to sell a lot of homes. We sold 90 houses last year. We're on track to sell about 100 houses plus this year. So things have been great, and can't complain.
Now, that's an interesting thing. I went to your website. I read the history of the Super Mike brand, or the tagline, or whatever you want to call that, but you've really embraced that as your personal brand. Tell us why Super Mike, because I think it's interesting. I think sometimes we can go out and choose our brand, and I sometimes think that's a mistake. I think our brand sort of chooses us, and in your instance, it seems that's the way it happened. Why Super Mike?
This might be a little bit of a long story, but it's a story that's probably worth telling. About a decade, maybe 11 years ago, I was at a real estate conference, and I learned that the top 1% of realtors worldwide had some sort of theme or slogan, and the top 1% of that 1% had a funny theme or slogan. So as soon as I learned that, I was also reading my second favorite book, which is Think and Grow Rich, and I was reading a section about the mastermind. So I decided to put together a group of people. I had my very first client in the business at that time, my most recent client in the business at that time, my family, a few friends, my lender, my insurance rep, my title rep, everybody that was important around me. And I invited them to my house for 3 hours. They had no idea why they were coming. I just told them, I need you, and I'm going to feed you, and that was it. And for 3 hours, I had them help me come up with a slogan and a theme. And I wanted it to be wild, outrageous, tongue-in-cheek, something very different. And not necessarily the realtor on the phone picture, right? So we came up with Super Mike, and a year later my business increased by 25%, and it's been steadily increasing ever since, just because everybody knows Super Mike. It's not that difficult to remember, and it's silly enough where people actually want to see what it's about. So that's the reason why we did it, and it's been working ever since.
But to sit around in a living room and ask people about your brand, it wasn't you it was other people that saw what you were, that related to you, that were giving you honest feedback. And I think that's what we need to do. Sometimes we think of ourselves as too serious or too funny, but when we honestly have a conversation about what value we bring to a consumer, to a friend, to a family member, that's the feedback that you got, and it obviously fits, because it's just not Super Mike. If Super Mike didn't fit with your brand, it wouldn't resonate with the consumer, because it fits with you. There's a lot of value in that personal brand.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And actually, the crazy part about this whole thing, and it is the God's honest truth, is the next day I went into the office to meet with clients, Alan and Milka Janda, and this is years ago. And they had their little daughter, Lauren, in the office with me. She was 6 at the time. And I had given her a couple of crayons and some paper to just color on while her parents and I were typing up the contract. The night before is when we had this branding meeting. I had not released any information to the public. We hadn't done anything with it at that very moment. And little Lauren started coloring a picture. She turned it around and showed me, and she had written Super Mike with a picture of me with a cape on it. And as soon as I saw that, I freaked out. And I called everybody that come to the meeting. I told them, and actually the story is on our website. It's called The Inception of Super Mike and Our Team. And I told the story because you really can't make that stuff up. And I realized that was validating exactly what we were working towards. So it was kind of a neat ending to it, you know?
Had that picture, Mike?
Say it again?
You have that picture?
I do. Yeah.
Now, Dave. Now, for someone, Mike is in New Jersey. I don't know the logistics of where or not, but as someone in the business, you must see that brand or hear that brand just in conversation quite a bit, or when you go to conferences. As a fellow agent, obviously, it sticks out. There's some value in personal brand, and we'll get in the mixture of personal brand and Remax, because that's the first thing we want to talk about in the show. But as a fellow agent, what's the value of seeing someone else that has a very defined brand that's unique and memorable?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, look, New Jersey is only 170 miles long and 50 miles wide, just to get some perspective. So we're all in this little spot here. And I've never really personally met Mike until just, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago for the first time. But I'm going to tell you, I know of him. I know Super Mike. Everybody knows Super Mike and his enthusiasm, because when you sort of get into a room and he's in there, you can kind of tell. Super Mike's here, and it's all good stuff. It's good vibes. And so it must work. I mean, you know, never met the guy. He's in a business. We're in this little spot. I don't know all the other agents, but I certainly know of him because of that moniker and who he is, the way he is.
Yeah, and once again, Dave, who he is and what your perception of his brand when you met, did those two things go hand in hand? And it's
absolutely. Yeah. That's why we were sitting at a big conference room table doing a video, doing some recruiting videos for the region. The region had us all come down here. Not all of us, Mike and myself and a couple of other agents, and I don't know. We were talking. I don't even know how we got on the subject about balance in life. And after he spoke for 5 minutes, it was like, wow. I mean, I was like totally blown away by what he said. And I said, you got to come on Mobile Agent TV and share this with the rest of the RE/MAX family around the country and Canada. And it just, to me, it resonated. It just matched what I perceived him to be. He's exactly what I perceived him to be.
Slight segue, but there's recurring themes on this show over and over again from top producing agents, willing to share, all this sort of stuff. He held up his second favorite book, which I'll ask what's your first favorite book in a second, but your second favorite book, Think and Grow Rich. When I was 21 years old in this business, I was struggling based on my age in the marketplace, and my manager handed me that book and said, go home and don't come back to the office until you've read that book. I think Think and Grow Rich is probably one of the most referenced books on this show. Generally, the people we bring on the show are enormously successful in the real estate space. That book shows up over and over and over again. I know we got a lot of viewers on the show that are starting their career, that have found us through a Google search or a YouTube search or wherever it is. They're looking for information. They're desperate to learn our business. Go and read Think and Grow Rich. Don't do anything else. Read it front to back. Put it down for 3 days. Pick it up again. It's not a long book. Read it front to back again, and then go to work. I just think it's one of the things we've seen over and over and over again. On that note, before asking the next question, though, Mike, what's the first favorite book? If Think and Grow Rich is number 2, what's number 1? Oh, let me guess. The most popular bok of all time. I got it. I was thinking it just before you.
Come on,
I should have put that together. I'm a little slow on that one.
You knew where that was going.
Yeah. Mike, it's a conversation that we've had a lot of times. Dave is very, very bullish, and so am I now, and even more every day that goes by on the value of the RE/MAX brand. On your website, you have what gives your team the advantage in the marketplace. RE/MAX shows up on that top 10 list over and over and over again. How do you consolidate, marry, maneuver Super Mike and that brand and have the RE/MAX brand add value without forfeiting the RE/MAX brand, without forfeiting the Super Mike brand? Because I think that is a dance that a lot of agents are having a very hard time leveraging both, and I think both are important, but sometimes we lose one or the other.
I think it's a great question. I think the first thing to recognize and remember is if you listen to Dave Lineker and you watch him over the years, he's the first one to tell you to promote yourself, right? I mean, people forget what RE/MAX actually stands for. It's real estate to the maximum, but that meant for us. And so Dave wants us to have a brand within a brand and to promote ourselves, but to use the balloon to your advantage. And that's why even if you look at my logo, it's the picture of Super Mike, but then in that top corner, you see the RE/MAX balloon hovering over. And that's kind of, it's subtle, but it's done on purpose. And the way we've always carried ourselves is people buy people before they buy products or services. That's something I learned from Jim Weicker. And what we do is we obviously are selling ourselves first, and then utilizing the brand and the company to further promote the values of our company, but then also to show the seller or the buyer why it is that they should work with us. So we're just using the power of the brand, as a reinforcement to our business. So that's basically what we're doing, and we're certainly not putting RE/MAX aside because we are RE/MAX.
And so then when you're, and it's very clear on your website, they're very intertwined. How does I mean, coloring and branding and all that sort of stuff? I mean, luckily Super Mike is predominantly red and blue with a little bit of yellow. But how is that being advanced? Are your signs stock Remax signs, or do you divert outside the guidelines and go personal?
They're stock Remax signs, except my photo is the Super Mike photo. And kind of to cross hairs a little with one of the questions you asked earlier, I do want to say, if you go, I'm going to say ballsy. If you go with a ballsy slogan and logo like we have, right, something that's definitely out of the norm, be prepared to take a good ribbing from the realtors. Because the first year that I did this, it was very difficult. I wasn't sure if I was going to survive with it because the agents were busting my chops badly. And after about a year, they stopped, and now I know it's working because they're calling me Super Mike, which is fantastic. But back to the Remax thing, I think the idea is people recognize the Remax sign, and so I didn't want to change that. And I think Dave, I'm not sure if it was you, Dave, who told me, but your card looks like a Remax sign. Is that right?
Everything.
Yeah. So you'll understand the power of what I'm talking about. So we stick with the standard sign, but then just have the Super Mike picture inside of it. And our riders say Team Super Mike, the signs say Team Super Mike, and people understand what's happening.
Dave, interesting that people say the things that Mike does, and we hear it over and over and over again. You know, about the value, about the brand, about that. But the other thing he says that I find very interesting was that he said that for the first year he took a lot of ribbing. And you've said this on the show, and I've said it on the show, when you step out and do something good and do something unique, video, branding, blogging, whatever it is, anytime you start to do something, there's a gut reaction with your competition, sometimes within your own audience, where they know it's going to work. And that comes out as this negative, I should be doing that, but Mike had the guts to do it and I didn't. I think when you start to ruffle some feathers in a positive way inside your own office or down the street, you're on to something. And I think that's one of the things about our business that we get sucked into is it's always been done this way. So I started trying something different. The guys down the hall started breaking my balls about it, and then I gave up on it. And so then I just conformed with everybody else. There isn't anyone on the show that's been successful who doesn't care what the person down the street thinks about what they're doing. And that doesn't mean do things crazy, but there will be a certain set of backlash no matter what when you start to do something successful.
Well, it's a successful part. That's what I think. I mean, and especially with realtors. I mean, this is like the big gossip thing, realtors, you know. Oh, everybody knows in real estate. I mean, I've always said this. It's like somebody at the other end of the state can do something in real estate, and everybody in the rest of the real estate community knows about it 10 minutes before it happened. It's just the way it is. And the successful part is the thing. I mean, I'm even guilty of it. How the hell is that guy doing that? He must be doing something wrong because he just sold 200 houses this year, and that's just human nature, I guess. But you're absolutely right. You know, do something a little different, have some success, and somebody's going to be kind of shooting arrows at you.
Yeah,
so that's okay. That's all right.
Tough those things out. I mean, stick to it, be consistent to it. You know, give up on it or stop doing it because you don't see the return on it, not because someone else tells you that you're not going to see the return on it. And I think there's a lot of young agents getting into this business that are forced to conform with a model that's from 1997 because their office is, the average NAR agent is 57 years old. I mean, Mike got into this business and he was surrounded by 57-year-olds saying, look, this is the way we've done it since the early 70s. And so, you know, just sometimes stick to your guts and don't listen to everyone in your office. Pick your mentors. Just don't listen to everybody.
That goes back to treating it like a business. If you're running it like a business, it doesn't matter. The people that are knocking you, they're not running their business like a business. They're just reacting to things.
Yeah.
You know, and you shouldn't pay any attention to if you're going to run it like a business, you shouldn't be paying any real attention to what your competition's doing to a certain level. You know, have your plan and do your plan. Do your plan.
Yeah. you say something on your website, and I saw the term there, and then there was more to read about it, and I did want to read about it because I wanted the reaction today to be honest and authentic. But you say on your website that your team strives to create professional buyers and professional sellers. Now, in 23 years of real estate, I think I know what that probably means, but it's the term I've never ever heard before: professional sellers and professional buyers. What do you mean by that?
So when I'm training for my team, or I'm training for Remax event, I'll always use that terminology. And I coined it years ago because at the end of the day, it was before the current generation who think they know every single thing before the realtor does. We are striving to educate our buyers and sellers almost to our level in a very condensed and short period of time. So I'll give you a few examples, and maybe these are some takeaways for people who aren't doing it. We require that every buyer that we work with come in, sit down with us in our office, and do a 1.5 hour to 2 hour complimentary buyer consultation. And so what I do is, I'll show you this real quick. Myself and my team, we have something called the Successful Selling Guide that I created many years ago, and it also has a complete guide, start to finish, of the entire buying process. So we're educating the buyers up front about the fact that there's going to be 30 to 50 things wrong that come up on any home inspection. The different options when an appraiser comes in and underappraises a house below the contract price. What to expect as far as certificate of occupancy inspections. All the different pitfalls that can go wrong, our buyers know about it ahead of time, and it keeps our deals together to the tune of about 95%. And before we were doing the buyer consultation, this fine-tuned consultation, we have probably an 80% closing ratio because you have deals that are falling through for all these different reasons. Now, with regard to the seller's end, we have something very similar, and that's called, surprise, surprise, the Successful Selling Guide. And this is a document that tells the sellers everything that they need to do. It's a 17-step guide, and it basically tells them, look, if you do all of these things with us, your home will sell. If you miss any one of these things, your home might not sell. And so we're trying to educate the buyers and sellers, make them professional buyers and sellers, so that at the end of the day, they accomplish their goal of selling or buying real estate, and that we assist them with that and then earn their referrals.
And that just takes us down an absolute rabbit hole about today's conversation too as well. First question is, come in, please come in. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to educate you for an hour and a half, 2 hours. The buyer says, nah, that's a waste of my time. I don't mind. Isn't that great feedback for you and your team, opposed to, oh, this requirement of educating our buyers, we're losing them, so let's not do it? You must look at that the way Dave and myself and so many other agents look at it and say, great. We've thinned that person out. They're out of the loop. We've qualified them. Don't want to come in. Great. Is that your attitude? I imagine it is.
It's exactly right. We call it releasing the fish back into the pond, right? So, and I heard that from somebody years ago, and I loved it. But that's basically what we're doing. At the end of the day, we have our scripts and our dialogues, and the point is when a buyer. So, for example, you call us up. You see a sign. You want to see 123 Main Street. The first thing that we're going to ask you is, so Michael, you saw 123 Main Street. Will you be wanting to see other homes in the marketplace, or is this the only home that you intend on seeing and buying? And what do you think 95% of the buyers out there say?
We want to see other homes.
Want to see other homes, right? Now, if they say we want to see this home and only this home, then we're going right into the qualification, the pre-approval, the emotional qualification right over the phone. We have a document that we use called our Client Care Questionnaire. It's a 10-minute interview over the phone we do with our buyers. And if we truly believe that this is the buyer for that home, there are opportunities that we'll take to show that property once we receive a pre-approval. It's rare. But when we ask the right questions, we find out that their buying needs include seeing other homes like most humans. And then once that happens, we tell them how we're different from most people, that we start by getting all of our clients pre-approved for a mortgage, and here's why, A, B, C, D. And then we tell them that we're very different from most realtors because we don't run out and just show you homes. We have you come into our office, we go through a buyer consultation with you, we go over your needs, your wants, your desires, and we answer all of your questions up front, teach you about all the real estate pitfalls so that you don't lose thousands or hundreds of dollars during the process like many first-time home buyers do. And so we're using our salesmanship. And this is where the selling comes in. The selling has nothing to do with getting a home sold. It's the salesmanship of getting them to understand why they need to meet with us. And the way we look at it is, we're going to be spending 2 hours of our time, our effort, our energy with these people. The least they could do is be there, right? It's not that difficult of a concept.
And sort of the attitude that I have with our clients, Dave too as well, is there is this, we're in this together. Like, it's just not me taking over the project and doing it. I mean, it's ultimately how the house shows is up to them. Ultimately how the house is priced is up to them. You know, I'm going to do all the marketing. I always say my job is to get qualified buyers through the front door. Once they're through the front door, the rest is kind of up to you. How the house shows and how the house is priced is ultimately the seller's thing. But getting everyone on the same page at the beginning eliminates issues later on. Therefore, I would imagine, and we'll get into it later on, is if you deliver just simply what you said you were going to deliver, at the end of the day, you've got a happy client, then you turn around and you ask for a testimonial. It's pretty easy as long as you delivered what you said you were going to deliver.
You just hit on the money. If you read through, as of this morning, we have 185 reviews, okay, on Zillow. And if you read through them, I would say probably 25% of them, 20% of them actually mention the consultation. They'll talk about the educational component, or they'll mention it, and that's one of the ways we know it works. The other way we know it works is we do something very different. I'll just show you. At the end of every transaction, and I've been doing this for a decade and a half, we send out a Team Supermike evaluation, and it's basically just a list of questions, and at the bottom of it, you'll see it asks if we can have their phone number shared with other people as a reference. And the people that send in this evaluation, 90% of the people that send that in mention the consultation if they're a buyer. And it's amazing. And so it means that we're doing something right, we're doing something different. And the way I see it is I would much rather spend an hour and a half to 2 hours up front with a buyer and find out that they're serious than to run out 3, 4, 5 Sundays or whatever day of the week I'm going to be out showing these people homes just to find out a reason that they're not going to buy. The other thing that I want to say about the consultation, and hopefully this is a takeaway for the audience, is I want you to think about it like this. Let's say I'm at the head of the table here, which is where I sit in our conference room. I'll always have our buyers sit on one side, not facing each other, but sit on one side of the table. And the reason I do that is because when it's time for me to ask them some very pointed questions, I want to see each of their reactions independently. So if I see that the wife is sweating about, let's say if I talk about the time frame, in my magic wand, when would you like to be in your home by? What month? What season? One of them gives an instant answer. The other one's pausing, and I can see them sweating. That's when I'm talking the couple out of buying at that time. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked people out of buying that then came back to me a year later and bought, but during that year sent me 2, 3, 4 referrals because they understood that I was for them and not for the commission. At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
I don't know how we're going to do any more episodes of the show, Dave, because the same themes keep coming up and over and over and over. Serve your client, do what's best for them.
Anybody got any questions about why he sells 100 houses a year, his team, and why his team is in the top 10 here in New Jersey? You haven't been listening. So I sort of, with that said, I mean, let me just go into something real quick here. That the reason that Mike's sitting on the show. He sat across from me and went through some things about balance in his life, and I went like, no, that's not possible. What are you, crazy? You can't be. There's no way you're doing that and selling 100 houses. It's just not how real estate works. So, Mike, if you could share with me or share with us and our audience some of the things that you said about the balance in your life and what you do, and to kind of take it from the beginning, when this is sort of a two-part question. I'm going to assume that you weren't always balanced in real estate. You started at White Group, you were a nut job, you're running all over the place, you're working 7 days a week, your wife's ready to kill you, you're ready to have a heart attack, like most realtors running around out here that don't have balance. So go from that spot to how you got to where you got, and what's the first maybe thing that you did, and then share with that everybody.
So first thing I want to say, the proviso is that there's never, in my opinion, any true real balance. You're just trying to get as balanced as you can, but it's almost non-existent if you think about it. But in order to try to create sanity, there's, I would say, 4 things that I've done over the years. And by the way, I learned most of these things from other intelligent people. I would just cherry pick. I learned something here from one party and here from another party, and then I package it together and I make it something that works for me. So not everything here that I'm going to say is going to work for everybody, but if you take anything away from our conversation today, I would say thanks to Dave and Michael, this is the part that you really want to focus in on. So the first thing I will tell you is I did not share the link for today's interview on Facebook with the public because, frankly, these are not things that I share with the public because, frankly, it would be maybe a turnoff to them. But it's something that for you realtors that are listening out there that is very important. So step one, shut off your phone. Shut it off. And so most realtors say, are you out of your mind? How do you get business? How do you do it? Especially with speed. The point is this. If you look at the people that are most successful and you watch the CEOs that are most successful, what these people are doing is spending an hour and a half, an hour, 45 minutes of clear, concentrated time on one task only. And you'll hear this from Darren Hardy and a lot of other industry greats that just know how to focus. So the first thing is I turn off my phone. And the phone is either in the off position or the mute position with no vibrate on. And what I do is I'll have my to-do list for the day. So here's my to-do list for the day as an example. And you can see that most of it's done, okay? This was yesterday's to-do list, right? And there's one carryover item that I moved over for today. But the point is in the morning, I don't check my email first if I can avoid it. I tackle one key item, and I focus with the phone in the off position. When I'm done with that time of focus, I then turn the phone back on, return all the calls. When I'm done with the calls, I return all the texts. When I'm done with that, I return all the emails. Then the phone goes back in the off position, flipped over so I can't see it if it's in the mute position, and that's my focus. So the phone is the first thing. The second thing I would say, and I would just give you a handful of things that I'm doing, and you decide if it's going to work for you. The second thing is I take a Sabbath rest, and so does my entire team. We shut down Friday night to Saturday night sundown. So Friday night sundown into Saturday night sundown where no work is commenced at all. This is my home office that I'm sitting in. I won't even walk into this room on the Sabbath. So I'm very much looking forward to about 6 or 7 hours from tonight to be able to relax and enjoy my life with my wife and look at the Bible or just take time for God as well. So that's important. And when we talk about a rest, whether you call it Sabbath or not, I just like to tell you, take a day off. And that means taking your calendar and physically blocking out a day off. If you're not doing that, that means you realtors know what I'm talking about. You don't have a day off. A day off means no emails, no phone calls, detaching from real estate, and spending time with your loved ones. That's what a day off really is. The next thing I would say is my wife and I have a date night every Monday night. We've been doing that for 10 years, and we've only had one interruption over 10 years that caused us to not have a date night. And so that starts at 7 o'clock at night. Doesn't mean we go out. It could mean we stay home, relax, watch a movie, but what it does mean is that the phone is in the off position and we're spending time with one another and not with real estate. And then the last part, I would say, the last component is an important one for me personally, and many of you out there in the real estate world might not understand this or relate, but I work very hard and so does my team, and we play very hard. So what that means is my wife and I, we take quarterly vacations, and when we go on our vacations, the phone is in the off position for the entire duration of the vacation. So as an example, we've done week-long vacations, 12 days, 14 days. We did a 31-day vacation last year. We're doing a 33-day vacation next year. We're about to do a 2-week vacation. And we have a beautiful, wonderful team. My team is phenomenal. Suzanne Mendez, who's my transaction coordinator, is like my right arm. I trust her implicitly. And so when I go away, the team is working flawlessly. So I'm not thinking about it. I'm not worrying about it. I'm just enjoying every moment with my wife or our family. And so those would be the components I would say. Shut off your phone, take a Sabbath rest or time for rest, take a date night with your spouse or your loved one, and if you can do it, vacation often. So those are the keys for my balance. Does it always work perfectly? No, but for the most part, it does the trick, and I always feel rejuvenated.
Absolutely. Now I got a tough question for you, because you're saying it from Team Super Mike. I'm on a team.
Right.
Dave's on a team.
I know where you're going.
I know, but it's fair enough. I mean, the vast majority of our audience, and maybe one thing Dave and I have failed to do on the show more than anything else, is represent the 75% or 85% of the agents out there when we bring on the Chris Spikers and the Lee Browns and the Mike Minervinis. That's not a reflection of the vast majority of agents that are providing an income for their family.
Right.
Retroactively, Mike, looking back, because I did the same thing Dave did when he started his business. maybe because you had to, maybe because I wasn't smart enough, you did the same thing. We ran around with our heads cut off before we sort of got our legs underneath us and got comfortable and had a business opposed to transactions. How much of that can an agent 3 years in with no assistants, no team members, and we've heard people say, find a partner in your office, dump it off, do the same thing for them. I mean, that's great advice. How much of that retroactively do you think you could have done, and how would it have changed your business if year 5 you acted like you did on year 18?
Yeah, I doubt very much that it could happen that way without at least an assistant and a partner in the office. There's really no way to, like, for example, let me rewind. Our whole team shuts down on Friday night to Saturday night. So that means when a customer calls in, they understand, you know, that we're not going to be around. But that means we're losing that segment of the business, or that they're waiting for us, right? You never know what's actually going to happen. We don't look at it. I look at it as honoring God, and God has blessed us richly, immensely because of that. Maybe, I'm not sure, but we're blessed. The point I'm making is I don't think that you really can have that kind of a balance without having a team. And I'm not just talking about for real estate. If you think about any industry, any organization, without a good team, how can you possibly? Because you're always going to be checking emails and calls and texts, and you're never going to really take downtime. And at the end of the day, what's the point of this? Like, meaning, you know, I love the people, love the realtors out there that say, I'm in real estate because I want to put buyers and sellers together, right? I'm the first person to say I love to put buyers and sellers together, but I'm in this to make and earn a living for my family, period. And so if that means that once I figure out a system that's going to allow me to accomplish that goal, but then also to have a balance where I can actually spend time with my wife, with my family, and then utilize the money that we're earning to spend with her and also to be able to give, then really at the end of the day our mission's accomplished. So I say that those folks that are out there, the only way you're going to have that balance is with other people. It's really the best way to do it, because doing it by yourself is, you know, it's running us into the ground as realtors, and I did it that way for many years.
Yeah, good advice. Dave, I'm sure you echo the same sort of thing.
Look at him. He's 59 years old. He looks like he's 20.
I said the same thing. Speaking about being 59 years old, Mike, question for you. He's not 59, by the way.
No.
Question for you about that. Do you think, because I think we're living in an enormous societal shift where people, buyers and sellers, and consumers in general want to be involved with a company's why. They care about the companies they use. If anyone out there knows what Tom's Shoes is, I'll ask someone, say, what does Tom's Shoes do? They will say Tom's Shoes sells shoes, but every shoe they sell, they give a shoe to a child, a pair of shoes to a child in Africa. And people know going in and buying a Tom's Shoes that part of their money that they're paying for is paying for another set of shoes. Whether it's a status symbol, so it makes you look like you're a good person amongst your friends, doesn't really matter. The reality is they have a why, and the consumer connects with a why. Do you think that because you've been in the business for 18 years, do you think your consumer understanding and respecting and wanting to be involved with you because you have balance is more prominent now in 2015 than it may have been in 1999?
It's a great question. I think at the end of the day, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet, I think that the buyers and sellers respect when there's a boundary, and they respect that you have a boundary which is allowing for some sort of balance. So when we tell our clients up front, one of the items on our list here, when we go through our guides, one of the items is day off. And we actually talk to them about our day off, and we talk to them about respecting that day off. And it's like a parent with a child. If you give a boundary, the child will try to go right up to that boundary, sometimes cross it, but then once you discipline and you put them back into their place, they then follow that rule, or they should, right? Our clients very rarely ever cross the boundary, and I think that they respect the fact that we're setting these standards for ourselves, but then they understand that there's going to be a reflection on it for them. That means the other 6 days, we're working like animals to find them an unbelievable house or to sell their house in a short period of time for a great amount of money. And I think so they see a correlation, but it's because we're explaining it to them.
Oh, someone didn't turn off their cell phone.
Definitely not me. It's definitely not me.
No, it's funny because
I'm waiting for text messages with questions for the show. That's all.
Safe. one of the things I was told to do, and a lot of agents, I don't know if it still happens in 2015, but my very first business card said available 24/7. That's just what I did. And I had this shift worker that when the Real Estate Weekly used to come out, he would get it when he came home after his shift at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would call me. And the reason why he called me is I gave him permission to call me at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so if you constantly respond to people's Facebook text message and phone calls at 10 o'clock at night,
Training them.
then you're training them that you're available to be communicated with at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. And, you know, that's really comes down to us. It's our own. I mean, now if you want to do your business that way, but all it is an education process, and this whole thing is about, Dave, you say in your listing presentation so much, if you can manage expectations and then deliver against those expectations, you will have a happy client. If the day one you said, I'm not available on this particular day, then that can never come back to you as a reason why they didn't enjoy the service with you, because they agreed to those terms at the very beginning. If you said, I'm going to shoot a video, I'm going to do this, that's how I'm going to market the property, and you execute on those things, you can never have a displeased client. But where people fall down is, I'm going to have world-class communication, I'm going to have world-class marketing, I'm going to sell it for top dollar in 30 days, and then those expectations or those promises aren't delivered against, that's when you have an unhappy client.
Right.
That's the problem, is it's in the management of expectations, and then we're going to switch this all over, and we're going to talk about referral or recommendations now, but it has to do with the education process and managing expectations. If not, I don't think you have a problem. No,
that's it. And you made a good point about the, you know, available 24/7. Like, there are still realtors out there that do that today because they want the consumer to believe that they're accessible, and that's fantastic. But at the same time, where does your life come into all of this, right? So on our cards we have, and this is for the entire team, one of the bullets that's on our card says full-time, full service, right? That's our way to portray that we're not part-timers. This is all we do. We do nothing else. We love to do this, but when we meet with them and sit down, that's when we go over the expectations on, you know, when we're going to talk and when we're going to, you know, meet and how we're going to communicate, right? But one thing they know for sure is we're not their doormat. That they definitely, we leave that impression with them for sure.
But does that come down to the way you've marketed? Sorry, Dave, I cut you off twice. Does that come that way down to you market it too as well? Is here, it's much easier to put that framework down when they approach you and said, Mike, will you please be our agent? Yes, under these conditions, right? Versus you go knocking on their door and trying to sell your services to them. That's the difference between being a salesperson and being an expert. I mean, and I'm not trying to demean the salesman perception, but the perception of, hey, you know, I'll do anything to get you in the car today. That's different than the expert that you are. And once again, if you're not willing to sit down and do the 2-hour buyer consultation, we're not working with you.
Right.
Dave, sorry, I cut you off twice.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, you know, I think a lot of this is sort of a little bit generational. I mean, I grew up watching my father work 3 jobs. And I was taught, work hard, work hard, work. It's a very hard concept to say, work less. The less you work, the more money you'll make. And in this context, that's exactly right. Work less. Have some downtime, you'll make more money. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to kind of get in their head. And why does that makes no sense? You know,
I don't think it's work less. I mean,
I don't want to lose the point.
All the time. Sorry, Gary Vee says all the time, you should be working harder and smarter. The reality is the way the Mike has laid it out is my 45 minutes that I put down on my phone off is way productive than your 45 minutes because you've been going for 21 days straight. And you're in a blur, and you don't know what's going, and you've got everything this in your head, and you're trying to make this thing happen. You don't have a CRM. You don't have a team that has a concierge, a client concierge. That's not the, I mean, Mike isn't saying work less. Mike is saying when you're working, knock it out of the park and make sure that you take the day off and rest so that you can deliver it. It's like setting up the starting pitcher for the Mets every game. It's not going to happen. It's the time off that makes him good. That's the reality of it.
I tell you, it's interesting because can I ask you guys a question? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Switch the tables.
Do you guys take that day?
I do. We do take time off. I'm not as disciplined as I should be about it, but I do take time off with my family. I've got a great team, and so we don't out front, but about a week and a half out, 2 weeks out, we bookmark our time.
But my question is this. Do both of you take a specific day off each week and actually have it blocked out? And
No.
most agents will say no, but I just wanted to find out your perspective.
No, and you know what? And I absolutely should, and I don't.
And the reason I say this, and it's a point that we touched on before, is if you take your calendar, and I'm old school, so the people that are old school might appreciate this, but this is what I live with, right? And you'll notice that my Saturdays all say off, right? And my Friday nights say off, right? That means that that's my appointment. So there's no way I can make an appointment or anything like that if it says off, right? It's just how I've done it. My point though is when I then come to Sunday and it's time to work, there's a rejuvenation and there's it's like vitality. You feel alive. And frankly, God gave us a day to rest so that we can take it easy and sleep and just really get our lives back together. So that would be my encouragement to the audience. If you take anything away, it's just take a day to rest, but make sure you set the expectation with the clients first.
And it's interesting because Lee Brown, who's awesome, puts it this way. Sundays for Lee are her days that she works exclusively with out-of-town buyers. And then you ask Lee, do you work with out-of-town buyers? And she says, I do not work with out-of-town buyers, but Sundays are the days that I work with out-of-town buyers. And in her presentation, she says, Sundays is reserved for out-of-town buyers. I just don't work with them. And that's the same thing. It's just say, I mean, if you don't have the guts to say I'm spending with my family, say those are the days that I'm working with this segment of the population. Anyway.
Do you know Lee Brown, Mike?
I do. Lee's a firecracker. Let's put it that way.
He is that.
And Lee, if you're watching, Lee, hello.
It's hard. Problem with Lee, it's hard to get her opinion on things. So let's talk about this. You are the most reviewed agent team on Zillow.com in all of New Jersey. Not RE/MAX. Every real estate agent in New Jersey, you're the most reviewed. So the question is, why does that matter? Number one. Okay, first of all, let's start that before I even add more. Why does that matter? What does it matter that you have the most reviews online?
Okay, so let me just take us back maybe a good 3 years ago. RE/MAX of New Jersey had a session, and one of the speakers at the session talked about the fact that referrals and reviews might be starting to conflict. And what that means is that reviews might become more important than an actual referral from a family member or friend. And I wasn't sure if I believed that, but then I had remembered I had read an article in NAR magazine 5 years ago that said that 75% of buyers will take an online review before they take a recommendation from a family member or friend. And I was naysaying it. I was like, there's no way that could be possible. That's the most ridiculous thing. And as I was kind of naysaying that, I thought to myself, well, if that's the case, why am I asking people to review me online then, if I really believed that wasn't the case? So I decided to test it. So at that time, I think I had maybe 10 or 20 Zillow reviews. And I started working my way up, and I was an individual agent at that point. It was myself and an unlicensed transaction coordinator. So I got myself up to 50 reviews. Once I hit 50 reviews, I started noticing more and more leads coming in, more and more bona fide purchasers and sellers contacting me based on the reviews. So then I decided I really wanted to amp it up, and I got it up to 75. The floodgates started to open up, and this is a good takeaway for all you folks that are watching. Get your reviews up. And so I built the team, and I told the team I wanted to get to 200 reviews by the end of this year, and we're on target to do that. So once we hit 100 reviews, I was still on my own, but once we hit 100 reviews, the leads just started coming in like crazy. But then, I think, Michael, you mentioned it, the way that the leads came in were very different. So as an example, I would say 1 out of every 10 leads that were coming in were something like this. Hey, Super Mike, my name is Tom. I read your reviews on Zillow. I would love to hire you as my agent to sell my house. And that's a much different type of lead than we were used to seeing online, right? It wasn't a garbage lead. And then when you walk into somebody's home, you're walking in with credence, like with a validation of your performance before you even say a word. So to answer your question is the more reviews, and remember, the reviews are very authentic, okay? The more reviews that you can get, the more validation you have in the marketplace, and the easier it is to obtain that business with a buyer or seller because you look like you have the credentials because other people are saying so. And we all know it's true now because look at all the different websites that people go on, whether it's Yelp or otherwise, to go on vacation or to a restaurant. We believe what other people are saying, and that's why the industry is changing this way.
But it's not even like it looks like you have the credentials. You do have the credentials.
Right. But now I'm not saying it. Somebody else is saying it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You said a couple of very interesting things. One of the things you said there was talking about that survey. One of the surveys I talked about the other day is found very, very interesting was from the British Columbia Real Estate Association here locally that said that a referral from a close friend or family member, 71% of buyers and sellers then took that recommendation or referral, then went home and performed a Google search.
That's right. Yep.
So it's not like, oh, I have to use Michael? Great, thank you. Call him. It's still vetting a referral from a close family member or a friend. Yeah. And so this is why this litmus test is going to stick up. And this is why this is why repeat referral for the traditional old school agent who's built their business on repeat referral is going to find a problem, because I think that out of any agent who says, I don't need to be online, their excuse is, or their explanation or justification is, I have a repeat referral business. Right. I don't need that. Right. But if 71% of your buyers and sellers then are Googling you and you don't exist online, now what?
Yeah. You definitely need to have both. And I'm going to say this. If you're watching out there today, get a pen and paper and write this down. And this is how we qualify and quantify the things that we're doing. We ask the question. So write this down. When a buyer calls you or a seller calls you, any kind of lead, okay, ask them the following questions. What made you choose us? And what made you call us? Two different questions entirely. And when we ask those questions, especially from the online reviews, or rather from the online leads, we're finding that, and that's why the Super Mike thing also works hand in hand, is because when people are scrolling down to choose an agent, depending on how they choose an agent, they're seeing suit, 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 and then this wackadoodle wearing this crazy Super Mike thing, right? And they're choosing us, they're clicking that and choosing that because of their curiosity, is what we get most likely, and then they're actually deciding to work with us and calling us because of the credentials and the reviews. So it's creating this whole package is really what you want to do. But ask the question, you know, what made you pick up the phone and call us? What made you choose us? Those are two important questions, and it will help you to determine where to spend money, where not to spend money, and what efforts, you know, what items to put your efforts into.
Melanie asks a very good question, and I don't know if I have the answer, Melanie. Melanie said, what do you think the Canadian version of Zillow is? Because we don't have Zillow or Trulia. I think in Canada, I think it's Google Local or Google Business. I just think that shows up right on the search, the top of it. I don't think we have a dominant site, Melanie. I think, and we generate a lot of leads, and we don't have a lot of recommendations. We do have a lot compared to our competition, but Google Local. And here's something, too. I want to ask Dave and I want to ask Mike, what do you trust more? A 5-star rating out of 5 with 8 reviews, or a 4.1% or 4.1 stars with 100 reviews. Which one of those two businesses, muffler shop, restaurant, realtor, do you trust more? The one with a 5-star review or the one with 4.1? 4.1, Dave?
4.1. Absolutely. To me, I would think they'd be more genuine. There's some real reviews in there. If somebody gets all 5 stars, nobody gets all 5 stars, especially if you got 100 reviews.
This is the tough part, Dave, and this is where it's tough for me because I see it both ways. I'm going to go with the opposite and say option A, but here's why. You know, and we don't really have to explain this to our clients, but sometimes I do just for the fun of it. You know, Zillow is not that easy to just get a fake review through, right? And we know this because, you know, if you try to review another professional, it'll say that. But there's a whole team that reviews the reviews, right? So we have a perfect 5-star rating, perfect, right? Every single one of our 185 reviews are all 5-star. My wife even tells me sometimes that we should mix it up and try to get somebody to give us a 4 or 3-star because it looks fake. But at the end of the day, they're all real. So I look at it from the opposite. I'm looking for the detail in it. And then the other thing that's important for realtors, and I think this really is good for everybody to know, everybody watching, write this down and execute this immediately. It'll take you about 10 minutes to do it. Respond to every single review. So do it in 2 ways. 1, send a handwritten thank you note to the person who reviewed you. And 2, put a thank you on Zillow or wherever you're receiving your review immediately. And if you are unfortunate and you have a negative review, answer that in a positive way as well, because it'll go a long way. But not saying anything online is the equivalent of receiving a gift from somebody and then not sending a thank you note. So you want to make sure that you're always responding.
Okay, so a little piece of advice. We said it before, we said it again. If you do not have a Google alert search with your own name on it, you're crazy, because there's so many review sites out there that if you're not reviewing, everyone go out and set a Google alert with your own name on it. It's a no-brainer. So, Mike, obviously expectations, getting reviews is important. How do you and when do you approach the topic of a review? Is that during prior consultation? Hey, and by the way, at the end of the process, we're going to get a review. And then when do you trigger that? At the closing table, at site removal, day you hand over keys? How do you go about actually doing those two things?
So it's a great question. We do it during our consultations, so it's part of our guide, and it's one of the things we discuss with them. And so we talk about the fact, when we get to our referral part of it, we talk about the fact that 95% of our business is referral based. And so, we're trying to earn your referrals. In addition to that, when the transaction is going positively and when it's completing, we're going to ask you to review us in several ways. One is we're going to send you a link for a Zillow review, and 2, we're going to send you an evaluation by mail, and we ask them to do both. And then we use the reviews that they did in writing in the evaluation to post it on our website under the Happy Client section. And when they do the Zillow reviews, obviously we take that link and post it on Facebook and so on and so forth. We'll also set up the expectation to do a video review with them. So depending on the client, we have, I think, maybe 15 or 20 video reviews on our website. And so those are awesome. People love those. And so we'll set that up, and a lot of buyers who were referred to us by other buyers will say to us, well, when do we get to do our video? And it's kind of cool because people look forward to it. So, but the best piece of advice I can give you is send the link for the Zillow review when the client is the happiest, and that generally is after they've either received a contract on their home that's acceptable and they've signed it, or when they've found a home and written a contract and start attorney review or get out of attorney review. Those are usually the points. We used to do it after every closing, but we're trying it a little bit differently to see if we can bump up the ratio of returns.
Okay, so you're basing up ratio of returns, not 5-star. Clearly, they're all 5-star, and that has to do with managing expectations at the beginning and then delivering and executing against those expectations. Do you ever say, one of the pieces of advice I had about reviews one time was saying, don't have them just say Mike was great to deal with, and he's for buyers and sellers. Sort of say, what part of the technology we use did you like most, or what part about the actual, do you sort of say, let's touch on different stuff, or all your reviews, because you have so many of them, just you let them say whatever you want, or do you say, we'd really like to talk about how this happened, the inspection went wrong, and we dealt with the issue, or do you just let them review?
We just let them review, because we tried about 10 different scripts for the email that we send to them when we're sending them the link to the Zillow review. And the one that works best is what I would call the call to action. We ask them to review us within the next 48 hours. Here's why. But we didn't want to add any language about scripting them or giving them ideas of what to say. We don't even ask them, for a 5-star review, and we just ask them to give their impression. But the one thing that I want to say, and it's just common sense, friends, don't send the link to anyone who has had a bad experience. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, if the client's had a good experience, make sure, and this is key to write down, this is a takeaway, send it to both spouses. So you have a husband and wife, you've got a boyfriend, girl, whatever it is, everybody in the transaction should get it. We've even had it where a mother and son, like a son's the purchaser, the mother's there from every step of the way. We have the mother review us as well. And the more the merrier. The goal is to get numbers and to get quality reviews. And so you want to go back to everybody your past clients, your landlords, your tenants, whoever that you can get reviews from, and get them to review you. It's just that simple. But you have to take initiative. Spend a good 2, 3, 4 days working on your past clients. Get that out of the way, and let that be your base, your foundation to build up 20, 30 good reviews. The average realtor I find has anywhere from 4 to 5 reviews, and people are passing them by because they're going to people like us or somebody else with 50, 75, 100 reviews at least, and they're going to them in droves because of the fact that those are the people that are doing the business.
And do you think that that is indication of the times that we're living in, where everything is reviewed, everything is researched? The value of a real estate agent now is not the data, it's the interpretation of the data. The value for a real estate agent today, Mike, is the fact that you're going to sit down and for 2 hours make sense of all the stuff they've been reading, all the blog posts, all the videos they've been watching. You're going to make sense of it all in a very concise way. Do you think that reviews is something that cannot be ignored by anyone that's wanting to build a successful business in this industry in 2015?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why do you think we're doing what we're doing? That's why I have a goal of 200 reviews. That's why I sat in a room with people that have 250 reviews, 275 reviews from different parts of the country, and we're networking to figure out how to do this better, how to get these reviews to be sent in successfully. And we're doing it because we're seeing the correlation of the business coming in, the referrals coming in, the leads coming in, and it's no joke. It's no joke. So if you're not spending time on this, then you're making a mistake. And for the people that are out there that want assistance, find me on my website or write to me at mike@teamsupermike.com, and I will gladly send you our Zillow review script so that you can just modify it, make it your own, and please make sure you put your link in and take ours out, or all of your clients are going to be reviewing us, and we don't mind that so much. So,
Dave, I mean, you and I are from two different generations. Do you purchase anything, $250 or more, anything, without reading a review? I mean, we're talking about a home. I don't buy anything without reading a review online.
I Google everything. I'm always Googling stuff. And they ask me a question. Well, all my friends, they just ask Dave. Because they know I'll pull out my iPhone and Google it. I mean, no matter what it is. If somebody brings up a product, somebody brings up a subject, that's my sort of my. Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, I think we have to accept that that's the nature of our society. That everything is Google search away. Mike, one last question before you go. I always like to ask this sort of question of seasoned agents, 18 years in the business. Mike, how has the societal changes, technology, social media, word of mouth, changed your business since you started, and what has not changed in spite of all these technologies that sit right in front of us?
So I'm going to lump it together and just say all the technologies. I'm going to include the phone in that. I'm going to include the iPad, all that stuff. And I'm going to give you the answer of it drives us crazy. That's what it's doing. It's driving us crazy. It's driving us insane. And I think at the end of the day, it's a blessing and a curse because we need these things. And the only reason why we really need these things, in my opinion, is because everybody else has them. I always say, if I could take this phone and throw it out, and everybody else threw out their phones at the same time, and nobody had an expectation of me having to answer this thing, we would be so much better off. And I just think can I tell a little story? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Anybody that likes Darren Hardy, he's got this one segment in a training that he does, and talks about this study that was done. It's a mouse, basically a maze, and the scientists did two studies. They took the regular scenario where the mouse would start in this corner here, and every single day they would place the cheese in the center of the maze, and the mouse would slowly go by and pick up the cheese every single day at that same time, and the mouse was relaxed and calm and at ease. But then they did an experiment where they took the mouse, put it in the same spot, but every day took the cheese and moved it at different times of the day and put it in different locations. It drove the mouse incessant, and the mouse went crazy because he never knew where the cheese was, so he's always running around. And that's what this is doing to us, and the technology is doing to us. It's driving us insane because think about it like this, realtors that are listening. When it dings, when it rings, when it beeps, when it bops, we always run to it right away. There's not even a pause. We go right to it, and we're completely distracted from every single other thing in our lives, including the task that we were working on at hand. So that's why I would say that it's driving us crazy. So we have to create some sort of balance with it. But I think, to answer part of your other question, the other part of your question is, it is a blessing because obviously we have the answers at our fingertips, and we can be contacted quickly, and we can contact others quickly. We just have to really know that this only changed in the last 15 years. If you really think about it, 15 years ago, we weren't driven this crazy. So it's probably not the answer you were looking for.
Oh, no, I mean, it's a great answer. It's an honest answer. But I guess even furthermore than just the technology, can an agent today operate like they did in 1999 and say, I'm not going to do e-signatures. I'm not going to do Facebook. I'm not going to do Google reviews. I'm not going to do video. I mean,
you can, yeah, but you're not going to be successful.
Okay, because Dave has a great saying: you still have to put them in a car, and that's exactly right. No matter where the transaction is, there's still a face-to-face relationship that has to be mastered. The question
you have to do a little bit of all of these things,
exactly.
but then pick the things that you want to do well. So, for example, for us, before Trulia and Zillow were merging, we decided we were going all in on Zillow, and that's what we decided to do. So we only had 133 recommendations or something like that on Trulia, which was still phenomenal. But the point is you pick the things that are working for you and you run with it, and try to not take on too much and too many different things. Just focus on what's working. For us, you know, the calls we have a client care program, we have client appreciation events. Those are the things that are working for us. And then all the Zillow and the Facebook, those are all supplementing our business. It's all secondary to us. It's almost like adding additional support to a good foundation, you know?
80% of your time on 20% of your task, Dave. I mean, that's the old 80-20 rule and everything that's out there. Dave, awesome show, obviously.
I am so ecstatic that I kind of thought to invite Mike because this guy...
Dave, you're great.
Well, I haven't been real successful in some of the guests that I invited in the past. But Mike, you've hit a home run. This is a blueprint. Everybody watching the show, watch it again. If you're not watching it or you're going to watch it later, this is a blueprint for how to be successful and have a life. And get through all of this noise, because we talk about that all the time on here. The noise. There is so much noise. What do you pay attention to? I think Mike's hit a home run. I think he's got it down. And his success and the way his life is evidence that it works. So everybody pay attention to what's been said here. I think it's been. I really appreciate you coming on, Mike.
Thanks, Dave.
A lot of people. It's great. And we got a new friend now.
Awesome, Dave. Now I'm guessing that's your takeaway. Do you think?
That's my takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, how you've been so willing to share your content and all that sort of stuff. How do people connect with you? How do people get a hold of you in Red? What's it called? Red?
Red Bank.
Oh, Red Bank. Yeah.
Red Bank. How do people send you referrals out in Red Bank, New Jersey? How do people find you? I'm sure it's a Google search of Super Mike. You're okay. but
actually, yeah, you could Google Zillow, Super Mike, or whatever. But best way is just mike@teamsupermike.com. You can go to the website on the screen or my cell phone 732-688-4922. Just don't expect me to pick up right away, so I will get back to you.
Or on Saturdays. Or on Monday nights.
That's right.
Or on Friday evenings.
Because I'll be with Lee Brown.
Perfect. Mike, thank you so much. Awesome value. Amazing. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us. We have Dave. I didn't tell you yet, but we have next week off. We return October the 2nd, and then we have a crazy schedule after that with 2 live events. 1 live mobile agent TV out in Victoria, 1 live mobile agent TV out in New Jersey. Mike won't be there because he's on vacation. Don't even ask him where he's going because he doesn't know. He doesn't care. He's just going away with his wife, which is awesome. So those are all coming out. So we return October the 2nd. If you have any referrals heading out to the East Coast of the United States, go to hold of Dave. He'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. Right, Dave? It might be in Red Bank. It's Super Mike, maybe. And if any referrals coming out to the West Coast of Canada, get a hold of me, and I'll put you in hands of the right RE/MAX agent. And as Melanie Gallia of RE/MAX Fort Marine wants us to end every show, please tell 5 other RE/MAX agents about Mobile Agent TV. We grow every week. We have opportunities to have an hour with Super Mike, which is awesome. We have opportunities to speak in New Jersey and Victoria and all over the place, which is phenomenal. Thank you, our loyal audience. It's been an amazing ride the last 3 years. And I think that's it. I think we're done for the show. So, Dave, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it very, very much. And thank you all for watching.